All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. It is 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are here to present the MMR, the Monday Message Recall. You know what it is. You know what we do. This is the opportunity where we recap the sermon that was delivered this past Sunday at the Southside Church of Christ in Durham, North Carolina. So go ahead and get your family, get your friends, get your mom and them, your dad and them, your cousin and them, your friends and them, your mans and them, everybody. Go ahead. We got Sister Graham. Sister Graham is going to be the first one in the building, in the online space, each and every time. She stays ready. I told you, she stays ready so she don't have to get ready. So go ahead and grab your notes. I'm John Merriweather, the online minister for the Southside Everywhere campus. And we are here I'm joined by my lovely wife on tonight.
All right, y'all. So look, y'all know what we need to do. We need to go ahead and drop inside the chat. Tell me what the scripture was. Tell me what the topic was. I would say it's a part two. I'm gonna drop a hint. It's a part two. It's a part two. On last week, we were blessed by Brother Thomas hopping in here and helping us digest, recap the actual sermon from last Sunday. So now I need y'all to get inside the chat the sermon, the title, the topic, the scripture, while John go ahead and pull it up, because we got to start with the word of God. Hey, Sister Christy Davis, thank you so much for hopping in here in this space with us. So look, go ahead, drop your name too inside the chat. Let us know where you're from, where you're actually viewing from. That would be great. We'll definitely be able to share amongst the screen just so everybody can see who's in this space with us, who's visiting, who's locked into the MMR. All right, John. So look, we're about to recap. We recap the message from the Southside Church of Christ, take place at 9:30 a.m. located in Durham, North Carolina, 800 Elmira Avenue. All right, Sister Graham, here we go. All right, so John, go ahead and start off with the scripture for us this evening.
All right. We're pulling up, as Sister Graham has put in their numbers. The chapter is 14, verses 1 through verse 9. All right, Sister Burt, I guarantee I thought I saw somebody that looked like you at Southside yesterday. I thought I saw somebody that looked just like you. I think it might have been you. If not, you got a twin out there. So I think you blessed the house on yesterday. Good to see you on camera. Good to have you there. So look, Numbers, the chapter is 14, verses 1 through verse 9. If you got it, type I got it. If you don't have it, you just listen along, follow along. You'll catch up with us. All right, I'm going to be reading from the New King James Version on tonight. And it says, so all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, if only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we had died in this wilderness. Why has the Lord brought us to this land to fall by the sword, so that our wives and children should become victims? Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt? So they said to one another, let us select a leader and return to Egypt. Then Moses and Aaron fell all on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel. But Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephthah, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes. And they all spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, the land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them.
All right, y'all. That's the reading of the word. You got it. Okay, Sister Burt said, oh, I'm confessing. That's me. That was me up in there. I think you had on the red sweater, orange sweater, burnt orange. It was something in that family. But yeah, we saw you. So no need not to go ahead and confess, because we saw you inside the house. Happy that you'll be there for the next 3 months. And thank you so much for the work that you do with FEMA and helping people recover from the different storms and tragedies that may come into their lives unforeseen, that they're not prepared for. But there's people like you in the world that help us get over the hump of the things that sometimes catch us by surprise. You know, God may not be surprised. She's smiling. She's smiling. Hey, Sister McDougal, so happy that you're in the place. Good evening, good evening. Okay, all right, John. So look, let's go ahead and get started with this recap, because some people missed that word on yesterday, and we don't want them to not get what Brother Thomas put down. So how did the conversation start? And I know we might need to recap a little bit, because, you know, every time he graced us with his presence, he give us new stuff. Like, he give us new stuff. He give us some, he recapped some, but he give us new stuff. So, all right. So, John, how you want to start this conversation tonight?
There we go. How distrusting God can affect us overall. And he started this conversation by picking up from where he talked about delayed promises. And as you can see in the title, we have to understand that the promises of God, even though God has promised to deliver them, we can delay the delivery. How many of us, y'all know we're about to enter into the holiday season. And I know, like you know, some of us are going to be up here very active on Black Friday, and we're going to be spending and using them credit cards and using that money that we got, you know, the blessings that the Lord has given us. But how many of us also know that sometimes if we do not engage in the process soon enough, the delivery of the gift can be postponed because we didn't take enough action on the front end. That's why we got some last minute procrastinating shoppers. That's why sometimes you just go ahead and give the cash because you didn't take the time to go ahead and get the present. And sometimes we prefer cash anyway because people get what they want to get anyway. But that's beside the point. But what I'm saying is sometimes if you go and wait till the last minute, you don't get the product because it's already gone. That means you got to go ahead and pay the full price for it. That means that you got to get the rain check and hope that the rain check can come in before the due date of the holiday season comes to pass. But what Brother Thomas wanted us to look at, if we can understand that example, sometimes we can understand the spiritual example, which is procrastination and doubt can hinder the progress of the promise when we don't trust the process of God. And here what we have are the children of Israel after they parted over the Red Sea, after they've been through the wilderness, after they had the manna, after they had the water that came from the rock, after their shoes didn't wear out, after all this time, after all the protection of God, they are standing on what God has promised them, and they say, we ain't ready yet.
Lord,
they did all that hard work, and now they own the temple, and they say, we can't enter in yet. God has brought them to the door. All they got to do is step into it. That's like driving 9 hours. You done drove 99 miles to get to 100, and then the last mile of the way, you say, I'm going to turn around and go back. All that time, all that gas money, all that effort, all the snacks that you did already ate on the way. You're almost ready to go, and you've been in the car for 9 hours. You're about to go get some rest. You're about to get to the bed. You're about to be able to stretch your legs, be comfortable. And you say, no, it ain't worth it. That's how sometimes we get when we travel along the path that God is bringing us along so that we can actually receive the promise. Because here's the thing. When they started talking about the giants, when they started talking about the cities, when they started talking about the opposition, the people in their faith started to faint, and they didn't realize that just because they were on the cusp of promise did not mean that there was not work that they still had to do. And that's why Brother Thomas made this point. He says sometimes the closer we get to promise, the closer we get to the goal, the closer we get to attaining what we set out to attain, it gets tougher. And it seems like as the closer we get, the tougher things become. Y'all know about it. How many of y'all have jumped on and got on a diet plan, and you lost the first 5 pounds, and then you lost the second 5 pounds, and then when you get to that last 5 pounds, it seems like that last 5 don't want to come off. It seems like the more walking you do, the more clean eating you do, the more snacking that you reduce, the more sleep that you get, the more uptake in the water, the slower that last 5 want to come off. But you have to realize that when you get to the last 5, that's when you're about to get to breakthrough. It doesn't mean that you got to stop. It doesn't mean that you slide back, get into oh no's and the bobos. Come on, have mercy. You don't go back and get in all those snacks that you used to get. You stay along the path, because if you keep on, sooner or later that metabolism going to kick in and you're going to get that last 5 out. Brother Thomas said it like this, that just because the situations in life get more difficult does not mean that we're headed in the wrong direction. Some of us want to abandon ship when we're getting close to docking at the port or getting to the dock of the bay. We can't let the winds of life blow so hard that it blows us in the opposite direction. Sometimes you got to put your head down like you're walking through that Chicago Hawk and go ahead and get to your destination around the block. You got to go through the wind. You got to go through the rain. Why? Because if you keep your hand to the plow, you'll sure enough get to your destination. So I'm going to take a pause right there. I'm going to take a pause and let Deneen jump in.
So look, he also mentioned the scripture, Galatians 6:9, where it talks about do not become weary in well doing. So here's something that I want you to know. Hey, Tiki T, so happy that you are here inside this space. I miss you. I got to come back doing some things so I can talk to my people. Hey, sis, how you doing? So happy to see you. Happy holidays. Can't wait to see you this Christmas vacation. Looking forward to everyone coming to town. So listen, okay, let's have this conversation, because maybe this is something that you don't know, but I want you to know that this actually happens. Every time that you make a decision to move forward on anything, and it could be a decision about anything, right? Something that's optimistic, or you say yes to move forward in your dreams, your goals, your aspirations, to lose the weight, to start the business, to strengthen yourself spiritually. At the same time that you create that new possibility, opposition rises with it, right? You know how there's a flip to every side of the coin? It's naturally there. All of the reasons why it can't happen, all of the reasons why you can't do it, all of the reasons why it may look like it's not going to work out. It happens every time. No, there's no time that opposition don't rise with a new possibility. So you got the positive thing on one side, you got the opposition on the other side. The question is, what is it that you grab hold to not get weary when you get close to the thing or when you start the journey? Because again, the opposition rises at the same time. Does it mean that you don't create new possibilities? No. Does it mean that you don't set goals? No. Does it mean that you don't try to obtain something higher, to grow in these different areas of life? Yes, absolutely. You continue to do that. Understanding that opposition automatically rises. There will be some naysayers. Put it in the chat. They're going to tell me I can't do it. There's going to be some people saying they too big for us. They're giants over there. We're tiny grass. It's going to be all of that. And when you understand that that's natural in humanity, like that's just part of the game, put it in the chat. That's just part of the game. You need to make sure that you are equipping yourself to know, like Sister Graham keep putting in the chat that Brother Thomas said, there will be or will feel like it's going to get harder or more challenging the closer you get to reaching your goal. Why? You've exerted a lot of energy. You flipped a lot of rocks over. You made a lot of steps in the right direction. Remember, and you had to fight some opposition. You had to confront the naysayers. You had to push past the wall that somebody was putting up for you. Maybe even the limiting thoughts that you had in your mind yourself. It will require some energy. It will require your effort. It will require your time. But if you already know that opposition is already present with every possibility that you create, spend less time worried about the opposition, more time worried about your strategy on how you're going to move forward past the opposition, the tough times, the heartache, the breakdowns, the 2 steps forward, one step forward, the 3 steps back, and how you're going to continue to make up that ground, because it will happen. Put it in the chat. It will happen. Opposition is present. All of it is there. But what is going to be the game plan that's going to allow you to keep believing, to keep trusting, keep pushing, and get that is part of the process? Put it in the chat. It's part of the process. That's what I'm saying, that it's part of the game. Opposition is just part of the game. It's just like if you're on a sports team. It's just like if you're in the spelling bee or some type of academic achievement is part of the game. It will happen. It will happen. The thing that you need to focus on is, what am I going to tool or give myself to be able to overcome? All right. So I know that he has started off to recapping some of the things that we discussed on last week, saying that the reason why sometimes it's hard for us to overcome or our promises be delayed is because we forget the promise itself. We don't remember what was promised to us. We don't remember the word. We don't remember what God said. We don't remember what we sought out to do. Sometimes we lose sight of the goal. That's why it's thought to put it on a board, put it on a sticky note, put it somewhere in front of you to remind you what it is that you're after, the thing that you're after, the spiritual goals that you're after, the goals that you have in your life. Where are they? How are you keeping them present? Because the more you keep it present, the more you'll know how to show up, who to be, how to create yourself, how to build your character, how to build your skills, how to build the things that will help you obtain it. But if you don't remember what God promised, if you don't remember what was promised to you, it's going to be hard for you to find the strength, to find the belief, to find what it is that will take you past where you are so you can achieve the goal. Right? Absolutely. Faith and wisdom. That's right. But faith without works is what? It's dead. So it does require something. It requires something for you. It is a game. It is a training. It is a process. And it will require you to put some skin in it, put some skin in the game. All right, John. So what else did he create for us or give us to help us with how to deal with these delayed promises?
Yeah, and what we have to remember is, like you said, we got to focus on we cannot forget the promise, because we got to realize that as we travel, the travel and the journey is the revelation, but towards the end of the journey, we go through that hard part, which is the purification. Because remember, the purification is what brings us to that next level, brings us to the high level, brings us to the level so that once we receive the promise, we can stay in promise and not fumble the bag, not fumble what the promise is. Just like I said, that last 5 pounds is so that when you lose that 5 pounds and you continue, you stay where you're at and you don't backtrack and you don't regress. Sometimes what it is when we step into promise before we're prepared, we regress back, and we in our latter state is worse than the first state. It's harder to come back after once you have messed up and you have achieved what you have set out to achieve. So what he said is, we don't forget the promise. Why? You don't forget the goal. You don't forget what God has said, because when you don't forget the promise, it's like a mental it's a mental exercise so that your mind will start remembering. If you focus on the promise, you can go back and you start thinking about all the times God has delivered, and he's delivered all those times before. If he's been successful all those times before and you've been successful trusting God all those times before, then you will have the anticipation that you're going to be successful once again. And he wanted us to understand that we can delay the promise when we yearn for the past instead of pursuing the promise. And we said this morning on the morning sip, there's an opportunity when death looks better, and death looks better when we do just like these people here, when we start complaining instead of praying. Come on, they started murmuring, they started talking about the problem, but they didn't start talking about the problem to God. They started talking about the problem to themselves. And when you're around a whole lot of people that can't get nothing done, when you're around people that can't make no changes, when you're around people that don't have any authority, that they don't have any power, that all you're doing is dragging yourself down into sorrow and not moving ahead. And Brother Thomas shared an example of the finance report that he got. It said that it looks like things was off a little bit, looks like, things are behind where they were. And it says we can either take that opportunity and look at it like, hey, this looks familiar to some issues that we had in our past. So this looks like we're not going to be able to make it. This looks like we're failing. Looks like we're falling forward. Looks like we're going in the wrong direction. Or we could say, hey, this is the last discouragement of the devil to cause us to turn around from promise. And we got to have our mind that we're going to go ahead and walk by faith and not by sight. We're going to walk by trusting God and not necessarily what it may look like, because when we look at what it looks like and focus on what it looks like, then we start doing just like the children of Israel. We start blaming people. We start looking about how the past was better, how we were better off. And all that is fear masking as wisdom. And we have to be careful not to let fear mask as wisdom so that we don't revert back to the ways of the past. And a lot of times what it means is fear makes us comfortable with what we already have. Fear makes us shrink back and say that we're good enough, and we begin to settle. But how many of us see that the children of Israel were not better off in Egypt? They were not better off in the wilderness, that they were going to be better off in promise, but we will settle for bondage. We will settle for less. We will settle for that difficulty instead of putting in the effort and the work to move into something better. And this isn't about putting down what happened in the past, but we have to realize that God is a progressive God. God is always taking us higher. God is always growing us. And as we grow, we have to remember that's going to cause us to move forward. So we must hold on to our faith and not listen to the voices inside of our head and the voices of the crowd, because the crowd will keep us right where we are and right where keep us stuck in the present instead of moving on to promise.
All right, look, I just have to go back. Sister McDougal, I don't know if you remember your daughter talking about how complaining is draining. It was a young girl's talk. I want to say it was Jody. I'm not sure. It was one of your it was one of your babies, right? And it has stuck with me, right? Put it in the chat. Complaining is draining. Put it in the chat. Complaining is draining. Now, here is what I want you to get about complaints, because we all have them. Put it in the chat. Be honest with yourself. You already know that you be complaining, and you might have been complaining today, but Jody told us that complaining is draining, and it's something she said, yeah, ma'am. Yeah, she put it down, okay? It stuck with me after all these years, and I know it was a long time. I know it was a long time ago. I don't even know if she even remember how she blessed our life, but she blessed our life, right? That's why it's important to go hear the young people speak, because I'm telling you, sometimes they be the teacher, and every now and again, we can become the students as adults, but complaining is draining. Let me give you this. Let me give you this about our complaints. See, when you are complaining, you have a persistent complaint about something in your life that's not going well. Here is the thing. This is where we get the kicker. This is where I want you to get that your complaints has a payoff and your complaints have a cost. So, Denise, what are the payoffs of our complaints? Well, I'm going to tell you what the payoff is. Being right, because we all like to be right. It's like a rush of a dopamine or whatever the other hormone is. Whenever we're giving advice, or we can tell people that they wrong and we right, whenever we feel like we're justified, right, for feeling the way that we feel, for going off on people, for being upset, right, that's a payoff. A payoff. This is why we complain about stuff. A persistent complaint that we have. They don't never do it right. They always this and that. They never do what they said. Whatever the complaint is, right? Because complaining is draining. But see, let me tell you, we normally enjoy the payoff. But see, what we don't realize is the cost. And what the cost is: love and affinity, healthy relationships, actually being able to reach the goal and not have to do it all by yourself. Because see, we get excited about that too. Being able to say that we did it all by ourselves, but we drained out. We're tired. We're exhausted. So I want you to practice and put it up on your wall. Put it somewhere so you can remember that every time when you start distraction, you got that right. Adrenaline. Thank you so much, Christy. Look, shaking my head. Yeah, one of my babies. That's right. She dropped it. Complaining is draining. Put it somewhere. So when you start complaining, and listen to yourself, because you're doing it more than you're probably admitting. Complaining is draining. The payoff is that you get to be right. You get to be justified. You get to make people wrong. You get to do all those things that you enjoy. But the cost is healthy relationship, love and affinity, partnership, actually getting results, actually not having to do it by yourself. And here's the thing about being in a community or a group of people where there's constant complaining. It prevents you from moving forward. It prevents you from focusing on the thing that matter. And Christy said it, it's a distraction. And the more you keep your eyes focused on things that distract you, you won't reach that. You are delaying your promise. Put this in the chat. My complaints delay the promise. My complaints delay the promise, because you think it's no big deal that you rumbling and you talking over there with the girl in the corner in the office, and you think it's not damaging you moving forward. I promise you that it is. It's a whole atmosphere that you place inside of a room where you should be being positive and being a problem solver, because people that solve problems get raises. People that solve problems get promotion. People that's complaining, they don't. They just stir up mischief. And people will always remember how you held things back, even when they don't say that's right, because everything matters. Come on, Christy, because everything does matter. The little things, even the things that you think are not having an effect on people, they are having an effect on people. All right, John. So he got us to remember that we can't forget the promise. We can delay the promise by yearning for yesterday. What else did he say about us delaying the promise?
Yeah, so he says that sometimes when we delay the promise, that the way we do that is by we start romanticizing the past. We start making the past and elevating the past like the past was something so great. But y'all, we talked about this morning, that they was making bricks without straw. They had murder attempts against every firstborn male in Egypt. There were murder plots against them, and it was very hard. But they started romanticizing and saying that the pain of the past is better than the challenge of the present. And when we do that, we choose to go backwards instead of moving forward. And we have to realize, Dr. Robert Davis said that. He's like, look, you got to choose your pain. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. There's going to be pain associated with it. And if you think that going back to your past means that you ain't going to experience some pain, you got another thing coming, because now Pharaoh's mad, because now not only did you run away, now you coming back. You think he's going to make things any easier for you? You might as well keep on going forward and go ahead and see what the end is going to be. And so we got to go ahead and move forward. But we says that distrust like that comes when the communities of faith do not trust God. And we revert to that blame and shame mentality. We start thinking critical. But here's the thing: when people start complaining, when people start being critical, when people start pointing out and doing the blame game, those are usually the people that ain't busting any grapes. They out there standing still. They on the sideline. They out there. They're what they call it, the couch quarterback. They the backseat drivers. They up here complaining, but they ain't putting forth no effort. So you got to go ahead and discount them and let them stay and rot as you move forward. And then he said, look, and we got to wrap this up. We got 3 minutes. We're going to go ahead and say, go ahead, give us 3 minutes. Go ahead, give us 3 minutes. He says that we develop a spiritual amnesia. Challenges tend to make us forget what God has already done, what God is already doing, and what God will do and is capable of doing in the future. When we choose not to face it, we choose to let the voices of the community drown out the voice of faith, and then we become stagnated. And then before you know it, years have passed, and we say, I remember when we did such and such. Why can't we do that? Because you was murmuring, you was complaining, you was standing still, you was playing the blame game. And like Denise said, when we become comfortable, yeah, comfortable is convenient, but comfortable comes with a cost. And it may be more than what we're willing to pay. And we have a mistaken allegiance when we trust ourselves over trusting God. We say that we want to lead ourselves instead of following the majesty of God. Instead of God had already told them, I will lead you to a land of milk and honey. And if they thought about it, look, Joshua and Caleb already told them the game plan. They's like, don't listen to that report. Their defenses have gone. Their defense is down, and God is with us. If God could if they've already experienced how God has taken out the whole army of Egypt, destroyed their whole financial system, destroyed their whole lineage, destroyed them, what is he going to do with some people that have no defenses, that have no chariots, that have no walls? They were going to be able to walk in and get things that they didn't have to work for. All they had to do was trust and work and trust in promise. So we have to remember that we cannot develop spiritual amnesia when things start looking bad, when we're going through those financial difficulties. We have to remember that God has provided before, and God will continue to provide if we only, as we sing the song, trust him, put our faith in him and ride with him. Even when we start having health situations, we got to trust God. God has healed before. God has healed, can heal again. And we're going to continue to trust God. We're going to continue to trust God in our family relationships. Yes, it's a rough time. Yes, it's hard times right now. But we know that God has brought peace before. God can bring peace again. And we're going to look forward to what is possible with God and what's not possible with man, because we know all man does is a whole bunch of failing, and they'll continue to fail. But when we with God, God can do anything but fail.
All right, y'all. So that's the recap right there. I want to just drop in a couple of more things before we go ahead and wrap up and get something to eat for tonight. It was so amazing. Brother Thomas helped us to realize and take a look at all the things that we've overcome this year. That was our theme this year, on overcoming, right? And we overcome a lot of things, and we're going to be able to put into practice all the things that and hopefully you have been already. Like every time we overcome something, whether it's conflict, whether it's shame, whether it's trauma, whatever it is that we worked on, right? We're going to be overcomers in the month of December, overcomers in the month of December. But he also told us what our theme would be next year. Do y'all remember what it is? If so, put it in the chat. And what I want you to do over the next couple of weeks, because it's almost time for us to take break and all that other stuff, I want to go ahead and start preparing you for what's to come, right? And he rolled out or gave us just a little tease. He gave us the title of what it is for us to come. And next year is going to be all about being all in. That's right, Sister Bert. It's all in, right? Discipleship. What does that look like? What does it look like to really stand for someone to know Christ, right? How many people are you going to invite? What stories about yourself you're going to tell, right? Because we listen to or have read parables from the best storyteller of all times. So as we start to prepare ourselves to become people who seek souls to save, discipleship, right? Here at Southside, everywhere, it's all about seekers, connecting the seeker to who? To Christ. That's our job. That's what we're here for. That's what God has commanded for us, is to go out and to teach the world. So look, all in, put it in the chat, all in, all in, all in, all in. I want you to be praying about it. I want you to be thinking about it. I want you to think of how you can become a part of this team to mobilize, to bring souls to Christ, because that's what we're going to be working on next year. So look, you can join us here each and every Monday night for the MMR. It's the Monday Message Recall, where we recap the message from Sunday morning delivered by Brother Orlando Thomas at 9:30 a.m. Durham, North Carolina, 800 Elmira Avenue. Be there, be square, get your seat. It's always a seat for you, right? So look, plan to join us in person. Make sure you're always present online if you can't get there in person. You can join us at the Southside Church of Christ on Facebook, YouTube, or you could also come into the private group, Southside Everywhere. Always looking forward to serving you. Y'all know what time it is. We'll see you here on next week. We love you. Have an amazing night.